Good evening. The Meteorological Service Division is reporting that Tropical Depression 9 has formed over the central Caribbean Sea and is expected to continue its slow strengthening over the next couple of days while moving closer to Jamaica. A severe weather alert remains in effect for the island. In a release, the Meteorological Service stated that as of 4 a.m., the center of Tropical Depression 9 was located near latitude 13.9 degrees north, longitude 68.6 degrees west, or about 985 kilometers or 615 miles east-southeast of Kingston, or 930 kilometers, which is 580 miles east-southeast of Morant Point, Jamaica. On the current forecast track, it will move over the waters south of Hispaniola tomorrow and move closer to Jamaica's southwestern coastline as a tropical storm on Sunday as it approaches the Cayman Islands. Jamaica and its territorial waters should begin to feel the impacts of the tropical depression as early as midday tomorrow, with an increase in showers and gusty winds. Fishers, therefore, are being urged to take precautionary measures. The Met Service says all small craft, including fishers from the Keys and Banks, should be arriving in port to start preparations for safe harbor. The tropical depression, the Meteorological Service said, is moving towards the west-northwest near 20 kilometers per hour, which is 13 miles per hour. A more westward turn is forecast over the next day or so, followed by a turn back to the west-northwest and northwest by the weekend. Maximum sustained winds are reported to be near 55 kilometers per hour or 35 miles per hour, with higher gusts. Slow intensification is forecast over the next day or so, followed by more significant strengthening over the weekend and early next week. The Meteorological Service said it continues to monitor the progress of this system. In the meantime, the Ministry of Health and Wellness wishes to advise the public that as preparations continue for the impending inclement weather conditions, the following precautions should be taken regarding food and water safety, especially persons with chronic illnesses and pregnant women. For food safety, the ministry advised that persons not store food items with chemicals such as kerosene, bleach, detergents, and insect sprays. Keep food items in a dry and cool place. Store packages of sugar, flour, rice, and crackers in their original package or in tightly closed containers. And keep a bag with emergency food supplies in the event that persons have to evacuate their homes. This should include only canned and dry food items. For water safety, persons should store water in a clean covered container. The lid of the container should fit tightly to prevent mosquito breeding. Do not use containers that have previously stored harmful chemicals, and use a clean container with a handle to dip up water from storage. Persons with chronic illnesses are being reminded to have adequate supplies of medication, and if they have to evacuate their homes, ensure that they take their medications along with them to their place of shelter. They should continue to take their medications as prescribed by their doctor while away from home. Please note that public hospitals will remain open to accept emergency cases. For further information, persons should contact the Ministry of Health and Wellness's Emergency Operations Center at 888-1-LOVE. That's 888-663-5683. In other news tonight, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has called on world leaders to provide comprehensive and targeted development finance for small island developing states. Mr. Holness, who was speaking during the 77th United Nations General Assembly yesterday, argued that this will help build resilience in territories that continually suffer due to various crises.
Small island developing states and some middle-income countries have particular vulnerability to climate shocks and external economic shocks, which have an oversized impact relative to their national budgets, and often crippling impact on their infrastructure. For small island developing states to survive economic shocks and recover lost and damaged infrastructure, they are forced to borrow, only to be confronted again in a few years with another round of natural disasters, which could wipe out significant infrastructure and force us to add to our already high debt. As I speak, I'm monitoring a tropical storm system that is threatening the Caribbean. Jamaica believes that a comprehensive and targeted approach to accessing development finance is needed. We fully support the work of the high-level panel developing the Multidimensional Vulnerability Index. We eagerly anticipate an era of truly equitable access to concessional financing and other funding support, which will enable us to invest in resilient infrastructure and create fiscal buffers so that we can withstand and recover quickly from the next economic, health, or climate shock with little borrowing.
The Prime Minister says he anticipates an era of concession financing that allows for proper fiscal buffers to be created against significant economic shocks. However, Mr. Holness noted that despite his calls for international support, Jamaica continues to work towards its resilience.
Jamaica is exercising great fiscal discipline. It has been a long and hard struggle, but we have lowered our debt to GDP ratio from stratospheric levels a decade ago, and we continue to pursue policies to ensure we can drive down our debt. We are building fiscal buffers to ensure that we can respond quickly to shocks. We are working with our development partners using innovative financing tools, such as floating a catastrophe bond, to ensure against climate disasters. But most importantly, we are mainstreaming climate resilience in all our infrastructure investments. Small island developing states like Jamaica are always mindful that despite our best efforts to improve our fiscal management and debt sustainability, a single climate event could wipe out 100% of our economy in a few hours. Climate change is an immediate existential threat for small island developing states like Jamaica. Concerted action to slow down and halt temperature rise is literally a question of our survival.
Prime Minister Holness said Jamaica looks forward to the convening of COP27 in Egypt later this year and called for all countries to meet their commitments and contributions to climate targets.
Jamaica looks forward to the convening of COP27 in Egypt later this year. We call on all countries to meet their commitments and contributions to climate targets. And we call on the developed world to increase their commitments and ambitions in climate financing, particularly for adaptation and loss and damage. As an island, Jamaica is keenly attuned to the importance of protecting and sustainably using our ocean and marine resources. We recognize that urgent action is needed to address the health and sustainability of the oceans.
He also addressed the issues of crime and violence and the challenges the country faces in dealing with this issue.
Several countries in Latin America and the Caribbean are facing an epidemic of crime and violence. Since the pandemic and the disruption in education, challenges with mental health are being increasingly expressed in violent ways. The propensity to resolve conflict or cope with social and mental stresses through violence requires a public health response. And Jamaica has not only engaged in global initiatives such as the Partnership to End Violence Against Children, but we have recently empaneled a National Commission on the Prevention of Violence to advise the government on building out an articulated public health and social service response. However, the situation is exponentially complicated and exacerbated by the influx of illegal and unregistered small arms into our country. From organized transnational criminal enterprises to street-level gangs to the misguided youth in the inner city. The availability of guns is driving an ever-increasing homicide rate. In the same way that a war on drugs is being prosecuted, in which we have been faithful partners in policing what comes through our waters or leaves our shores, there now must be a war on guns.
Continuing with the news tonight, 3 persons were shot, 2 fatally, during an attack by gunmen in the Crescent Road area close to 2 miles in Kingston this morning. Reports coming into our news center are that at about 9 a.m., a group of persons were traveling on the roadway when gunshots rang out. The police were summoned, and during a search, 3 persons were found suffering from gunshot wounds. They were taken to the hospital, where 2 of them succumbed to their injuries. The 3rd man, who was shot while taking his child to school, has since been admitted to hospital. A team of police officers have since been maintaining a presence in the area. Deputy Superintendent of Police in charge of the St. Andrew South Division, Coleridge Minto, gave us an updated report on the incident.
Sometime about 8:30 this morning, a group of men were on Crescent Road when explosions were heard. At the end of the explosions, 3 men were found suffering from gunshot wounds. The men were taken to a hospital where 2 of them have since succumbed to their injuries. The 3rd man is now in surgery and is being treated for gunshot wounds. The area is currently tense. There are some operations ongoing at this time. I do not have the full identities of the men as yet, but there is an active investigation ongoing regarding this shooting. We are appealing to the residents to remain calm and to provide any information they have to the police so that we can bring the persons responsible to justice for this matter. Well, this area is one of the areas that we have on our watch. We would have had a murder in this area, just a little over a week ago, and so we had some presence in this space. We do know that one of the persons that was killed is not from this area, he's from another division, and so there's a cross-division investigation going on to determine the motives behind this triple shooting this morning.
Still making Mello TV news, over 45 justices of the peace were appointed and presented with official citations by the Minister of Justice Delroy Chuck for the parish of Hanover at the Grand Palladium Resort and Spa in Lucy in the parish yesterday. The event was held under the auspices of the Custos Rotolorum of Hanover, David Steer, with Minister Chuck as the guest speaker. The minister in his address told the JPs that they have been given a charge. They have been trained and they must be a beacon of honesty and integrity, a beacon of civility and decency, and a beacon of humility and peace.
Hanover, a great parish, to participate in this very important ceremony as we have newly installed Justices of the Peace. You have been given charge by the Honorable Custos, and you have also heard from the Senior Parish Court Judge and also from the Superintendent of Police. May I emphasize that as Justice of the Peace, you're now in a very important role which you must ensure that you uphold the dignity of this office. Absolutely important. I know you have been trained and you have gone through a fair amount of training and admonition, not from not only from the customers, not only from the senior parish court judge or from the superintendent. And I don't really want to add too much, save and except to say, you must be beacon of honesty and integrity. You must be beacon of civility and decency. You must be beacon of humility. Please, the senior parish court judges said, JP must mean just, you must just and also pride. I hate to say it, but it must not mean just profiling.
Mr. Chuck also asked that they be keepers to the office that they are appointed to keep other JPs accountable.
So what I'm going to ask you, newly minted Justice of the Peace, if you know of any Justice of the Peace who acts contrary to that oath of office that you have taken, I beg of you, expose them. Tell the custos here, or if it is another parish, ask the custos to convey it to the other custos. We cannot allow this office to be affected and demeaned in any way. So you must not only uphold the oath, but you must be the symbolic leader and exemplar of what our decent, law-abiding, upright citizens should be. I ask you to carry yourself in such a manner that when people see you, they say, that's a JP. I want to be a JP.
Still making the news tonight, the Minister of Tourism Edmund Bartlett is currently in Japan to take part in the eagerly awaited Tourism Expo Japan 2022 exposition. The all-inclusive trade show for the travel industry, dubbed one of the world's largest travel trade exhibitions, runs from September 22 to 25 and brings together important figures from the global travel and tourism sectors. Now, as part of efforts to penetrate the lucrative Asian market, the minister is expected to undertake significant meetings. Additionally, he will represent Jamaica at the state funeral for former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, who was fatally shot on July 8. Abe was the country's longest-serving leader in modern history. The minister also expressed his enthusiasm for the dialogues and knowledge sharing that would result from the expo. And those are the stories making news. I am Shelley Hill. Do stay safe, pleasant viewing, and thanks for watching.